You are listening to The Testimonial, a podcast of critical essays bearing witness to the forces that shape our world. We conduct historical autopsies, expose hidden systems, and decode the profound truths within culture, politics, and the seemingly whimsical. Each episode is a deep dive, a forensic investigation. This is the evidence. You are about to hear the testimony on the Canine Catalogue, how human vanity reshaped the wolf. Welcome. We are about to investigate how our oldest and maybe most important animal partnership was completely reshaped by human ambition. Our story starts a long time ago. Think about it. Around a campfire, maybe 15,000 years ago, a kind of unspoken deal was struck. A pact between our ancestors and wolves, built for mutual survival. It was an incredible partnership. But then, somewhere along the line, that pact was broken. And it wasn't broken by a war, but by a catalogue. And the evidence of that broken pact? Well, it's impossible to ignore today. You can see it in just about any veterinarian's office across the globe. We're looking at a silent, worldwide pandemic of genetic disease, and it's all contained within this one species we claim to love so much. Let's be really clear, this is not natural variation. This is suffering by design, meticulously standardized and then marketed to us all under the prestigious label of purebred. Okay, so let's begin our historical autopsy. We're going to start at the very beginning to really understand what that original pact looked like and to pinpoint the exact moment it all went so wrong. For thousands and thousands of years, the human-dog relationship was all about function. The prevailing science today suggests it wasn't even us taming the wolf, but actually the other way around. The friendlier, more curious wolves started hanging around our settlements, and we let them because, hey, they made a great early warning system. Over generations, this creature evolved to be uniquely in tune with us. What made a dog valuable was its health, its intelligence, its utility, not what it looked like. And this right here, this illustrates the massive shift perfectly. On one side, you've got the pack dog, a resilient partner shaped by millennia of working alongside us. And on the other, the catalog dog, a fragile product defined by a written rule book and valued for its paperwork and its looks. We went from having a partner to having, well, a project. So how in the world did that happen? How does a living partner get turned into a curated project? Well, let's look at the timeline, because this change was slow and it was systematic. As our societies developed class structures, the dog's roles started to get re-engineered. In ancient empires, they became living symbols of power. In medieval Europe, it got even crazier. A dog's actual body was legislated by so-called forest laws to keep the social classes separate. But the real turning point, the big one, was 1873. The Kennel Club was founded in the UK, and they created the stud book. And just like that, a new definition of a dog's worth was born, its documented ancestry. Now, you have to understand, this wasn't happening in a vacuum. The language that the kennel clubs were using sounded an awful lot like the eugenics movement, which was popping up at the exact same time. You literally have Francis Galton, the father of eugenics, using dog breeding as his model for improving humanity. All that talk about purity and the fear of mongrelization, it was basically copy-pasted from human racial theory straight into the dog world. And if you want the perfect and honestly the most tragic case study of this, just look at the bulldog. Old paintings show this athletic, functional animal, but the Victorian breed standard came along and systematically exaggerated its features until it became a caricature. A flattened face, a massive body, shortened legs. This new ideal was a biological disaster, remaking a working animal into a tragic symbol of our aesthetic obsession. Of course, this obsession with engineering for looks has led to some catastrophic health consequences. And that brings us to the forensic evidence of the modern crisis that is plaguing so many of these dogs today. So here's the crucial thing to understand. That Victorian ideal of purity, which was enforced by these closed stud books, it basically created a biological time bomb. By taking the gene pool and shrinking it down to just a handful of founder animals that met some arbitrary look, and then systematically inbreeding their descendants, they created a genetic bottleneck. They traded robust health for the complete illusion of purity. And the result of that? A catastrophic loss of genetic variation. Just look at this number. Over 700 inherited genetic disorders have been directly linked to specific dog breeds because of these bottlenecks. That number is staggering, and it's far higher than in any other domesticated animal. This means that for some of our absolute most beloved breeds, genetic disease is now the rule, not the exception. The numbers are just heartbreaking. Over 60% of golden retrievers are estimated to die from cancer. For Dobermans, over half suffer from a fatal heart condition. All of a sudden, that pedigree certificate starts to look less like a badge of honor and more like a medical ledger of risk. And this brings us to maybe the most visible and audible symptom of this crisis, the brachycephalic or flat-faced dog. We're talking about French bulldogs, pugs, English bulldogs, breeds that have been engineered for an extreme look, but that cuteness comes at a terrible, terrible cost. This is not a harmless quirk. The cute snorting sounds are the sounds of an animal struggling to breathe. It's called brachycephalic obstructive airway syndrome, or BOS, and it's a whole cascade of anatomical failures. We're talking about nostrils that are too narrow, a soft palate that's so long it blocks the windpipe. Their entire system is in a constant state of crisis. This condemns them to a lifetime of distress, a high risk of overheating, and very often secondary heart failure.
But this crisis isn't just a biological one. It's a profound cultural artifact. It's a living, breathing mirror that reflects our own societal values and our anxieties. We've built an entire industrial complex on a foundation of vanity.
This system works on a simple, brutal logic. At the bottom, you have puppy mills, factory farms, just mass-producing living products for profit. Then, the digital marketplace obscures their horrific origins, letting them sell directly to us and fueling impulse buys. And finally, social media acts like an accelerant, creating huge demand by marketing curated cuteness while completely normalizing the health crisis happening just beneath the surface. So after looking at all this evidence, what's the verdict? And maybe more importantly, is there a path back from this? How do we even begin to restore the pact that we broke so long ago? Well, the most common defense you'll hear for this whole system is tradition, but that's a moral cop-out. The tradition people are defending is a recent invention. It's a 150-year-old Victorian project. The real tradition is the 15,000-year-old pact of mutualism. Hiding behind this distorted version of history is just arguing that because something's been done for a while, it justifies causing profound and unnecessary suffering. So the path forward really requires a systemic shift. First, we need legislation. We can follow the lead of countries like Norway that have already defined extreme breeding as what it is: animal cruelty. Second, we need science. Kennel clubs must open their closed stud books and use outcrossing to bring back genetic diversity. And finally, there's us. We have to change our consumer values, championing robust health over a rigid and often harmful aesthetic. We once looked at the wolf and saw a partner. Now we look at the dog and see a reflection of ourselves, often distorted by vanity. The question is whether we have the courage to look away from that mirror and see the living, breathing being we have shaped, and to finally accept the responsibility that comes with that power. You have been listening to The Testimonial on the Canine Catalogue, How Human Vanity Reshaped the Wolf. Follow us on social media @The Testimonial for updates and to join the conversation. If you believe a topic deserves a testimony, let us know.